Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome back to Pause, Rewind, Play. We're talking about technology, specifically within the TV domain. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about second screen engagement. And I'm going to be doing that with Samuel, my guest today. Welcome, Samuel.
Glad to be here.
So, second screen engagement, I think, should we just go for definitions to start with? Should we talk about what it is? I think that's let's get straight to the nub of it. I think, from my experience and from throughout my career, second screening has been a thing for a long time. But this cheeky little word of engagement on the end, I think that is something that when you add the two together, you are now in what service providers and content services are trying to do today. So I always thought of second screen as like a sidecar experience. Something that was a second-class citizen. It's another screen. It's not the big one. It's not the main one, but it is something that you do on whether it's a mobile device or a tablet or what have you. Now, these days, it isn't that. And I think there's lots of factors that have driven that, and we'll dive into what those are. But let me just hand it over to you, first of all. What do you think of second screen engagement as? Like, if you had to give a definition.
Yeah, so it's any screen apart from your main screen, and from a media entertainment standpoint, obviously the main screen being the large TV screen in your lean back experience in your living room.
Yeah.
Traditionally,
yeah,
it's any other screen. So it's either a laptop or a mobile phone. Typically, mobile phones are the most dominant use of second screen
class of device.
Class of device, and then whether it's a tablet, mobile phone, or laptop, traditionally that would be seen as a second screen.
And so this concept is, I'd heard it called a long while ago, just second screening, the idea that you've got your TV, and then maybe during the ad break of a particular program, like you're down on the device, and then you'll wait for the ad to finish. Oh no, I'm back up again, and I'm back on the main screen now. So it's a very passive concept. You're just literally flicking between them because you don't want to break in your entertainment. Not really engagement as such. In fact, if anything, possibly disengagement. But when we have second screen engagement, I think that takes it past this idea of just having the two screens there at the time, and takes it in a direction where, and as we're going to dive into as we get forward into this, is this idea of involvement, immersion, engagement, interactivity. Now, there's all these different aspects to it. But again, I'm quite keen to just get your riff initially on the engagement part that we add to second screen. How does that change the nature of the dynamic with the user?
Oh, it changes it dramatically in terms of how we've talked about personalization. How do you create the right information, infotainment media that engages? And again, if we look at audiences, the second screen explosion really we see within the Gen Z community, again, 12 to 27, and millennials, 27 to 42, 43, where we have so much mobile phone usage, and you call it disengagement. Someone would say multitasking. We live in a world that everyone is multitasking today, doing something on their phone, watching the main screen.
Do you multitask?
Absolutely, I do. I'm looking on my phone.
Are you a good multitasker?
I can't really say whether I'm a good multitasker. Yeah. Of course, the reality is if you multitask and you're trying to do multiple things at the same time, your concentration is never 100% on that thing. And of course, I think that's the challenge we have, is how do we, create the right engagement for these audiences that are using second screen. And I think there's a lot that we can do there to really create much more engaging experiences.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening is that traditional ways of looking at the main screen are being disrupted by these audiences who are spending hours and hours looking at the second screen and then being distracted from what actually is being presented to them on the main screen. And of course, trying to create that interactivity and try and keep that engagement integrated is kind of one of the opportunities for the industry.
And in recent years, I think it's probably fair to say there's been a basic level of, maybe it's not second screen, maybe it's just giving, it's a take on interactivity, which is, as many shows have offered, voting. Right? Previously, historically, you might have voted via a phone number or maybe even a premium phone number, and there's revenue for the show, for the channel, what have you, for the service that's in there. But that's pivoted towards the web, being able to submit votes on there, then towards apps, and now a mix of a bit of both, maybe via a QR code on the screen. But I guess the point I'm making is voting, that sort of basic level of interaction, is something that's lent itself very well to being done on a second screen, as you might well imagine. But I think second screen engagement goes a lot further than that. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. I think betting is one. And what's naturally happened, as I know both of our experiences, we come from kind of the mobile business, as we've seen a tremendous evolution from, monochrome type screens where people were playing, Snakes, which was one of the common games, to complete mobile computing platforms where on these devices you can look at apps, you can look at even kind of live, broadcast entertainment, and there's a lot more that you can do, and therefore that's created much more opportunity for distraction from the main screen because there's things you can do. And of course,
they were never there.
Were never there.
For some of these younger generations, they started on a mobile screen.
Exactly.
This idea of like a TV in the lounge for the family. Yeah, I think family units, even groups of friends may come together around a main screen. Are there any of them looking at it? Questions for certainly some user segments, particularly the younger ones. I think they are mobile first. There's often this expression digital native, but I think mobile first is a good way to look at it, or what would you call it, app centric or something like that. But something that means that they're not looking at it as a second screen. For them, that's their first screen. And actually, you're doing the reverse. You may have to find some way to engage them and link them to the main screen, rather than for maybe some segments that have older generations within them. But those, we are talking about the kind of more traditional definitions. It's a fascinating one. I mean, why is it important? That's a question we should probably seek to look at. Why is it important for businesses? Why is it important for users? Do you want to take either one of those and give me your thoughts on?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, if we look at the user, again, you've got a choice of content that you'll be able to consume. The distraction that comes from you looking at the second screen, typically a mobile phone, is such that you're not consuming other mediums that service providers are looking to try and make sure that you're consuming, whether that's obviously premium content or whatnot. So it's extremely important to try and figure out a path to an experience where you can bring back those users who are spending hours and hours looking at whether it's YouTube or Snapchat for the Gen Z, and try and engage with those users, because those are the future big spenders on your platform.
And how do you do that? Because I wrote down next to importance, and then just got a whole lot of alliteration going on: interactivity, immersion, involvement, information. I think you can deliver information as a sidecar. It's interesting. It's useful. I see this bridge that's on this particular program we're watching. Oh, now I know something about it. Cool. Oh, it was built then. Interesting. But and that that kind of one-way-esque. But then to do something that's more interactive, right? So maybe you are solving a puzzle or whatever it might be, but sending some information back, and then this deeper level, which is like the immersion part. So I think this is where some of those interactive program formats that we're beginning to see now have you control, your viewing experience. You're kind of deeply latched in, engaged in what's going on. There are different levels, right? But these tools, these mechanisms that you're using for engagement, I think they're critical, right? If you don't have that, people will literally disengage.
Absolutely. The interactivity is an interesting one. For example, take the user case of an ad break during a live broadcast.
Yes.
Automatically, there's a disengagement, and often, rather than not, you'll see Gen Z communities, millennials, look straight on their phone. Why couldn't there be, for example, a better interaction at ad breaks with the broadcast content that people are watching to continue to ensure that second screen engagement and that fan is being served the best content possible and the best medium at the best time, because of course during ad break there isn't that interactivity. I think there's lots of opportunities around that. Interactivity, I think, is definitely one.
Hello, I hope you're enjoying the conversation in today's episode. I just wanted to take a moment to say a huge thank you to Spicy Mango, who are our Series 1 sponsor. If you're looking to build global scale media and digital publishing platforms, Spicy Mango bring that serious expertise. They dig deep, they look at your business goals, and they ensure technology actually does what it should do in order to drive growth and remain cost effective. You can get in touch with them at spicymango.co.uk. With that, let's get back to the episode. I was looking at, within the research for this episode, a bit of the options around those implementations and, you know, the kind of live polls, interactive features, voting during live events. I think you gave another good example there around just live TV generally and ad breaks. And, you know, these are all opportunities, right, to engage. We talked already a bit about the challenges around this multitasking. I might call it like fragmented attention, because I don't feel like necessarily I'm putting everything of myself into any one task if I'm multitasking. I feel like I'm kind of time slicing almost, if you will. But we talked about challenges. We touched a little bit on opportunities. You know, what do you think are some strategies that maybe just in general approaches that can be taken to engage users without overwhelming them? Because that's the other concern, right? Is that you do so much that you're trying to hoover them in so much to the experience that actually it's just overwhelming for them.
Yes, and there's always that balance of trying to create the right situation and interactivity that keeps them engaged. I think is it
use case specific? Do you think it depends on? It's a contextual thing. You know, you do one thing maybe for live TV, and you do something different or something else or something in addition for.
I think it's contextual. I think you're right. I think the medium of the mobile screen is very different to the medium, obviously, of the 60, 70-inch telly, and therefore you have to adapt the experience as such. I can't watch a football match on a mobile phone. I just can't. I want to watch it on a full screen television. Yeah. So the interactivity needs to be adjusted accordingly. I think the opportunity, I'm advising a company at the moment that actually is trying to find a way of having complete immediacy between what's being broadcast on a main screen and what's being delivered on a device, on a second screen. Today, there's a latency that exists, particularly if you look at what's being broadcast and what's being delivered on OTT, and those could be minutes, it could be tens of minutes. It's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
So having a mechanism to interact under a second, real time, with what's being broadcast, or what's being consumed in a stadium, for example, and be able to get that information delivered real time to a device, creates a much more interactive, real time experience that can keep people engaged.
Yeah. So it's almost like synchronization.
Exactly, content synchronization,
and that's a great segue into what the future thoughts, your future predictions, where we kind of imagine this going for second screen engagement could be, is like, if you think about characteristics or key elements of it, synchronization, right at the heart of it. And I think that's one that struck me as a really important point. I think if live is just absolutely custom built for that. You almost, is it table stakes to have? I think it is, right? You can't, to your point about the sports experience, you can't have the two screens 30 seconds or a minute or minutes apart. It just doesn't work.
Absolutely. And the frustration that you can be in two different households and you could hear someone celebrating a goal seconds, minutes before you've actually seen it on your medium, which obviously could be served over IP or an OTT medium. So really, that immediacy, I think, is absolutely key. Or, for example, watching your favorite team ad break, your favorite team scored, and then during the ad break being served on your mobile device, maybe a fast piece of content, fast channel content about the striker that's just scored the goal.
Absolutely.
Being able to see some statistics being served, making that link between the content you've been watching and some time that you have.
Great experience.
Yeah,
I'm quite excited about some of the supporting technologies that will enable for better engagement, future engagement. I think there's an idea around all of the various different extended realities, whether it's virtual or augmented. I think that's going to be an interesting, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the mainstream solution, but I think it's an interesting branch of where the second screen engagement might go, like how you're going to manage for those different screen experiences. With a pair of glasses, for example, can you put stuff around the screen that is beneficial and complementary to the main viewing experience? And that's one interesting part. Obviously, AI. I mean, we might as well just mention it just to chuck it in there. But I think for me, like I'm fascinated by, again, the rate of cadence of what the AR and VR experiences could end up doing. I don't think necessarily current generation, but we're talking about maybe 1 or 2 generations on from here. Are there any other technologies that you think that will be massive catalysts or accelerators for second screen? Anything else that
you touched on augmented reality. Certainly we're going to see a lot of interesting user cases. I think it's going to be interesting how it evolves. The aspect of just a lot of the buzz is around AI assistance, being able to actually use the AI assistance within context of something that you've watched, and that AI assistant understanding that and then suggesting something to you proactively to the user case.
With no manual input.
Prompt. Exactly. Is one, I think, other quite user case that's probably just around the corner. But I know we're trying to wrap up. So, of course, I think there's a lot we could unpack on AI, but I think it's obviously fascinating how things will start to accelerate over the next few years.
Yeah. And I think this is, again, if we think about what we're trying to do here ultimately and what a user's wanting, like just great outcomes, great viewing experiences for them. I think that's the, that's the crux of it really. And how you, at the same time, give them great outcomes whilst maintaining quality, whilst maintaining focus, not overwhelming them. There's a lot to factor in here, right? As soon as you go from one big screen to potentially a second screen that shouldn't be a second-class citizen, that maybe is almost equivalent for some user segments, or maybe even the dominant. Right? There's a lot of characteristics to have to balance here to get a good outcome for the user.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we talked about definition and importance. We talked about challenges and opportunities. We talked about futures. Do you have a final thought on the second screen? Anything that just think, if I had to say something to someone about this, I should tell them this?
Yeah, I think you made the point and you took the words out of my mouth in terms of mobile first, really looking at developing user experience with kind of mobile in mind and thinking about the whole interactivity of that from the outset, I think could help change the mindset in terms of what we develop and we create as services. I think that's certainly something I would take away.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Samuel, so much. I hope you, the viewers, have enjoyed this episode. If you do, please subscribe or drop a like. And again, remember when you're talking about tech, it sometimes is good to pause, rewind, and play.